I've driven a lot of people in my life. Tourists with cameras hanging from their necks, desperate to see Cristo Redentor before sunset. Business executives barking into their phones in English I only half understood. Couples fighting in Portuguese, then making up in whispers. People running from something. People returning to something they thought they'd lost. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for the night Selena Gomez and Benny Blanco stepped into my black Fiat Toro outside a private event venue in Vila Madalena, São Paulo. It was late, maybe 11 p.m. The streets were slick from rain earlier that evening, and the air smelled like wet asphalt and pão de queijo from a nearby bakery that never closed. I was parked under a jacaranda tree, half asleep, when my phone buzzed. A last-minute booking. VIP, discreet, no questions. I pulled up to the side entrance, and there they were. She was wearing oversized sunglasses even though it was dark. He had a baseball cap pulled low, hands shoved deep in his pockets. They moved quickly, like people who had practiced being invisible. She slid into the back seat first. He followed, closing the door softly, carefully, like he didn't want to make a sound that might shatter something fragile. For a moment, I didn't recognize them, but then I saw her reflection in the rearview mirror, the curve of her face, the way she bit her lower lip, and him, the way he glanced at her, then away, like he was afraid to look too long. I knew who they were, and I knew, instantly, that this wasn't a normal ride. "Where to?" I asked in English, keeping my voice low. She didn't answer right away. She stared out the window, her hands folded tightly in her lap. He leaned forward slightly, his voice quiet, almost apologetic. "Somewhere quiet," he said. "Somewhere far." I waited. "Somewhere nobody knows us," she added, and her voice cracked just a little, just enough. They didn't ask for a hotel. They didn't ask for a restaurant. They didn't ask for the beach or the mountains or some five-star resort with a private entrance and a concierge who knew how to keep secrets. They asked for silence. And something in their eyes, the exhaustion, the heaviness, the way they sat just a little too far apart, told me they weren't just tired. They were carrying something, a truth they hadn't spoken yet, a fear they were both trying to hide, a weight that money and fame and a million Instagram followers couldn't lift. What they needed wasn't a destination. What they needed was a place where nobody knows their names. So, I took a risk. I turned in my seat and looked at them, really looked at them. Not as celebrities, not as tabloid stories or red carpet photos, but as two people who looked like they were drowning in their own lives. "I know a place," I said slowly. "It's not fancy, it's not close, but it's quiet, really quiet. My grandfather used to take me there when the world got too loud." She looked up. Her sunglasses slipped down just a little, and I saw her eyes, dark, searching, desperate. "Where?" she asked. "A farm," I said, "deep in the countryside, a few hours from here. There's a lake, an old house, trees, stars, no Wi-Fi, no people, just space." Benny looked at her, she looked at him, and then, in a voice so soft I almost didn't hear it, she whispered, "Take us there." I didn't ask why. I didn't ask what they were running from. I just nodded, started the engine, and pulled away from the city lights. The road stretched ahead of us, dark, winding, uncertain. And as we left São Paulo behind, I realized something. Sometimes, people don't need to know where they're going. They just need someone to take them there.
The highway out of São Paulo is strange at night. During the day, it's chaos. Trucks loaded with sugar cane, buses packed with workers heading to the city, motorcycles weaving between lanes like they're dancing with death. But at night, it empties out. The noise fades. The lights disappear. And all you're left with is the hum of the engine and the weight of whatever you're carrying inside. I kept my eyes on the road. They kept their eyes on everything else. For the first hour, neither of them said much. Selena sat with her head leaned against the window, watching the city dissolve into farmland. Benny stared at his phone, scrolling, then locking the screen, then unlocking it again, like he was waiting for a message that never came. I turned on the radio, sertanejo music, soft and slow, a song about love and regret, and roads that lead back home. She smiled faintly when she heard it. "What's this?" she asked. "Brazilian country music," I said. "It's what people listen to when they need to feel something." She nodded. "I like it." Benny glanced at her, then looked away. We passed through small towns with names I'd known my whole life. Jundiaí, Itachiba, Bragança Paulista, gas stations with flickering neon signs, churches with iron gates, street vendors selling pastel and fresh sugarcane juice even at midnight. The air grew cooler, cleaner, the kind of air that makes you remember what breathing is supposed to feel like. Around 1 a.m. we stopped at a roadside lanchonette, a tiny diner with plastic chairs and a menu written in faded chalk. I needed coffee. They needed to stretch their legs. Selena pulled her hood up. Benny kept his cap low. They walked in like ghosts, trying not to be seen. The woman behind the counter didn't even look up. She was watching a soap opera on a small TV, wiping down the counter with a rag that had seen better days. "Dois cafés, por favor," I said. "2 coffees, please." She poured them without a word. Selena wrapped her hands around the small cup, letting the warmth seep into her fingers. Benny leaned against the counter, staring at a poster on the wall, an old advertisement for a local festival that had happened 5 years ago. "You okay?" he asked her quietly. She didn't answer right away. She just stared into her coffee like it held the answer to a question she hadn't asked yet. "I don't know," she finally said. He nodded, like he understood, like he felt the same way. They didn't say anything else. They just stood there, side by side, in a tiny diner in the middle of nowhere, drinking bitter coffee and breathing in the smell of fried dough and old grease, and something that felt, for just a moment, like freedom. When we got back in the car, something had shifted. Not between them, not yet, but inside each of them.
The road stretched on, darker, quieter. The city was gone now. No streetlights, no billboards, just trees and fields and the occasional house with a single light on, someone awake at an ungodly hour, living a life we'd never know. "How much longer?" Benny asked. "About an hour," I said. "Maybe less." Selena leaned forward. "What's it like? The farm." I thought about it. How do you describe a place that means something to you? A place that saved you once, in a way you can't quite explain? "It's old," I said. "My grandfather built the house with his own hands. There's a lake, not big, but deep. The water's so clear you can see the bottom. There's a porch with a hammock, a dirt path that leads through the trees. And at night, the stars. You can see everything." She smiled, a real smile this time. "It sounds perfect," she said. "It's not perfect," I said honestly. "It's a little broken. The roof leaks when it rains. The floorboards creak. The stove barely works. But it's real, and it's quiet. And sometimes that's all you need." Benny looked at Selena, and she looked back. And for the first time since they'd gotten in my car, I saw something pass between them. Not words, not a plan, just recognition, like they both understood something they hadn't been able to say out loud. We turned off the highway onto a dirt road. The tires crunched over gravel. The headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating rows of eucalyptus trees and fields of tall grass swaying in the wind. And then finally, we saw it. The farm. A small wooden house with peeling paint and a crooked porch, a rusted fence, a clothesline with nothing on it. And beyond that, the lake, black and still under the night sky, reflecting a blanket of stars so thick it looked like someone had spilled diamonds across the heavens. I parked the car and turned off the engine. Silence. Not the kind of silence that feels empty, the kind that feels full of possibility, full of space, full of something you didn't know you'd been missing. Selena opened her door slowly, stepped out, breathed in. Benny followed. They stood there, side by side, staring at the farm like it was a place they'd been searching for their entire lives. "This is it," I said softly. She turned to me, and her eyes were shining. "Thank you," she whispered. I nodded. "I'll come back Sunday morning. If you need anything before then, you won't have cell service, but there's food in the house, firewood, candles, everything you need." Benny reached out and shook my hand. Firm, grateful. "We'll be okay," he said. I wasn't sure if he was telling me or himself. But I got back in the car, turned around, and drove away. And as I looked in the rearview mirror one last time, I saw them standing there, two shadows against the stars, finally alone with whatever it was they'd been running from.
Enjoying the story? Hit the like button, subscribe, drop your comment, and turn on the notifications. Let's keep going.
When I came back Sunday morning, the sun was just starting to rise. I drove slowly, the dirt road softer now after a night of dew. The air smelled like earth and eucalyptus and something sweet I couldn't name. Birds were singing, loud, chaotic, joyful, the kind of noise that reminds you the world keeps moving, even when yours has stopped. I didn't know what I'd find. Part of me thought they'd be gone, that they'd called another car in the middle of the night, unable to handle the silence, the isolation, the reality of being alone with each other and nothing else. But as I rounded the last curve, I saw them. They were sitting on the porch. Selena was in the hammock, her legs tucked under her, a blanket wrapped around her shoulders. Benny was leaning against the railing, a cup of something warm in his hands. They weren't talking. They were just there, together, watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. I parked and got out quietly, not wanting to disturb whatever fragile peace they'd found. Selena looked up and smiled. A tired smile, but a real one. "Good morning," she said. "Morning," I said. "How was it?" She glanced at Benny. He glanced back. "Honest?" she said finally. I didn't ask what she meant. I didn't need to. I walked up the porch steps and set down a bag of fresh pan de queijo I'd picked up from a bakery on the way. Still warm. The smell filled the air immediately. "Breakfast," I said. Benny grabbed one and bit into it. "Oh my God, this is incredible." Selena laughed, a soft, genuine laugh that sounded like relief. I sat down on the steps, looking out at the lake. The water was calm, a perfect mirror. A family of ducks glided across the surface, leaving tiny ripples in their wake. "So," I said carefully, "you two okay?" Selena pulled the blanket tighter. "We talked a lot about everything." "Everything?" Benny nodded. "Things we should have said a long time ago." I didn't push. I just waited.
After a moment, Selena spoke again. "You know what's strange?" she said. "Everyone thinks they know us. They see pictures, they read headlines, they make assumptions. But they don't know what it's like to carry all of that, to never be able to just be. Her voice wavered. I came here because I didn't know if I could trust what we had, if it was real, or if it was just another thing people wanted to control, another story for them to tell. Benny set his cup down. I told her I didn't care what anyone thought. I told her I just wanted to be with her, not the version of her everyone else sees, just her. Selena looked at him, and her eyes filled with tears. And I told him I was scared, she said, scared of being hurt again, scared of letting someone in and having them leave, scared of being happy, because every time I've been happy before, it's been taken away. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. But here, she said, her voice breaking, in this place, I realized something. I realized that fear has been running my life, and I'm tired. I'm so tired of being afraid. Benny reached over and took her hand. She didn't pull away. We spent the whole night talking, crying, laughing, fighting a little. And then we just sat by the lake, in silence, and it was the most peaceful I've felt in years. I looked at them, these two people the world thought it knew, sitting on a broken porch in the middle of nowhere, holding hands like teenagers who just discovered what love could be. You know, I said slowly, my grandfather used to say that places like this don't fix you. They just give you the space to fix yourself. Selena smiled through her tears. He was right. We spent there for a while longer, eating bread, drinking coffee, watching the sun climb higher in the sky. And then Benny said something I'll never forget. I don't know what happens next, he said. I don't know what the world's going to say or how hard it's going to be. But I know this. I'm not running anymore, and I'm not pretending anymore. Selena squeezed his hand. Me neither, she whispered.
Before we left, they asked me to take them to the lake one more time. I waited on the porch while they walked down the dirt path, hand in hand, their figures growing smaller against the endless green. The morning light turned everything golden. The grass, the trees, them. I don't know what they said to each other out there. I didn't hear the words, but I saw the way they stood, facing each other, foreheads touching, her hands on his chest, his arms around her back. I saw the way she cried. Not the kind of crying that breaks you, the kind that releases you. I saw the way he held her, not like he was afraid to let go, but like he finally understood that letting her in didn't mean losing himself. They stood there for a long time, and then she kissed him, slow, soft, like it was the first time, like it was the last time, like it was the only time that mattered. When they came back, they were different. Not in a loud way, not in a way you could photograph or explain, but in the quiet way people change when they finally stopped fighting themselves. We loaded their things into the car. A small bag, a jacket, the blanket from the hammock that Selena folded carefully, like she wanted to take a piece of this place with her. Before she got in, she turned to me. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Of course." "Why did you bring us here? You didn't know us. You didn't owe us anything. So why?" I thought about it. "Because I've been where you were. Not famous, not in the spotlight, but lost, scared, running from something I couldn't name. And my grandfather brought me here. He didn't say much. He just let me breathe, and that saved me." She nodded, tears welling up again.
"Thank you," she said, "for giving us that." I hugged her. Not like she was a celebrity, like she was a person. Someone who needed to be reminded that she was allowed to be fragile, allowed to be real. Benny shook my hand again. "If you ever need anything," he said. "I mean it. Anything." I smiled. "Just take care of each other." He looked at Selena. "I will." We got in the car and started the long drive back to Sao Paulo. This time, they didn't sit apart. Selena leaned against Benny's shoulder. He rested his head on top of hers. And they slept, peacefully, deeply, like people who'd finally found solid ground. I didn't play music, I didn't talk, I just drove, watching the countryside roll past, thinking about how strange and beautiful it is that sometimes the most important moments in our lives happen in places no one will ever see. When we reached the city, the noise came rushing back. Horns, sirens, crowds, the world in all its chaos. I pulled up to their hotel, a discreet entrance, a security guard who nodded and looked away. They got out slowly, like they were leaving something behind. "Will you tell anyone?" Selena asked me. "No," I said. "This is yours." She smiled. "Good." Benny handed me an envelope. I didn't open it, I just nodded. "Take care," I said. "You too." And then they were gone. Back into their lives. Back into the cameras and the questions and the noise. But I knew, even if no one else ever did, that something had changed. They hadn't just found a quiet place. They'd found each other. And maybe more importantly, they'd found themselves.
I never saw them again. But a few months later, I was in a cafe in Pinheiros, drinking my morning coffee and scrolling through the news on my phone, when I saw a photo. Selena and Benny, together, at some event, smiling. Not the polite, practiced smile celebrities wear like armor. A real smile, the kind that reaches your eyes. And in the caption, someone had asked her about the secret to their relationship. She didn't say much. She never does. But she said this: "We found a place where we could just be. And we decided to protect that, no matter what." I smiled, because I knew. I knew about the farm, the lake, the stars, the silence, the tears, the truth. And I knew that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is take someone to a place where the world can't reach them, where they can stop performing, stop pretending, stop running, where they can just be. Paulo Coelho once said that the universe conspires to help those who are brave enough to follow their hearts. Napoleon Hill said that the starting point of all achievement is desire, backed by faith. I think they're both right, but I'd add this: sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop. Stop running. Stop hiding. Stop pretending you're okay when you're not. Sometimes the greatest achievement is not success or fame or recognition. It's peace. It's honesty. It's letting someone see you, really see you, and choosing to stay anyway. I'm just a driver. I take people from one place to another. Most of the time, I don't know their stories. I don't know what they're carrying. I don't know where they're really going. But every once in a while, I get to be part of something bigger. A moment, a turning point, a breath of air for someone who's been drowning. And if you ask me, that's the greatest privilege of all. So here's what I'll leave you with. If you're running, stop. If you're scared, speak. If you're lost, find a place where you can breathe. And if you're lucky enough to find someone who sees you, not the version of you the world wants, but the real, messy, broken, beautiful you, hold on to them. Because in a world that's constantly pulling us apart, the most radical act is staying together. Even if it's just for a weekend. Even if it's just in a hidden place nobody knows. even if it's just long enough to remember who you are. That farm is still there, my grandfather's house, the lake, the stars. And every time I drive past it, I think about them. Two people the world thought it knew. Two people who found something the world could never give them. Peace, truth, each other. And maybe that's the real story. Not the headlines, not the photos, not the noise, but the quiet moments in between. The ones nobody sees. The ones that change everything.
If you watched until here, thank you. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love reading your messages. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notifications so you never miss another story like this. And if you'd like to support the channel, you can buy me a coffee. Any amount helps a lot. Link in the pinned comment.